God spoke to me today. I said, stop. I'm a pagan, an atheist, a non-believer. Don't waste your words on me. What are you thinking? I mean, that's not the first thing I said, actually. I thought it was Peter, my friend. He's always playing jokes. He says I'm too rational and entirely logically scientific. And so at first I thought it was Peter. So the first thing I actually said was, Peter, stop playing jokes. But I looked, and Peter was nowhere to be found. So, by testing the hypothesis that it was Peter, I realized that it could not indeed be Peter because Peter was nowhere in the room. I then looked for any sort of scientific device which would allow Peter to transmit his voice when absent, though, to be truthful, honestly, it did not sound like Peter. If I believed in God and I thought that God had a voice that was masculine in persuasion, this would be what I would expect to hear. It was comforting and deep. Morgan Freeman-esque, I guess I would say, if I had to compare it to some modern-day male. Which comparison might lead you to understand the sort of tones and depth that this being's voice had. And the voice started by saying, I am God. Which I thought was rather pedantic, quite frankly, and a little simplistic for a great being who supposedly looks over the entire universe and, well, maybe at least the Earth. And this is why at first I assumed wrongly. Now it appears that this was Peter. Not only that, but Peter, as I said, does have a penchant for playing practical jokes and thinking that I'm a bit too scientifically minded. So this voice says, I am God. And right there, stop! Stop! I don't believe in God. So, whether or not you are some sort of being that lies outside my scientific understanding, I am not the person to whom you should be speaking. Blatantly, you should be using this moment of what one might call a miraculous occurrence to speak to a believer, to strengthen that belief, to perhaps send them on a mission of the sort that might further your teachings or further your desires for what you'd like to see in the world. Why would you use those energies to speak to a non-believer, someone who chooses to look at science and experimentation as the true example of how life works? I understand, on a rational level, the desire to believe in something greater, the desire to feel within, because I would describe miraculous is a word I'm uncomfortable with given its religious nature, but I would say that when one is in the experience of the outdoors and perhaps looking at a perfect flower bud, for example, one might feel in the presence of some sort of divinity. Because there is a sort of lifting behind of the brows and an energy that unfolds. But I would say to you that this is very clearly explained by the fact that all things are energy. whether it is stationary, whether it is moving, it is all energy. You are in one place and another at the same time. Time is fluid. There are so many things beyond our comprehension that we cannot even imagine, that those things, I do believe, explain the so-called miracles that we have heard about throughout time. So I do understand rationally how in the presence of some such miracle, you might feel that there is a divinity that watches over everything and perhaps inspires said things, but I would say to you that it is the energy of the thing itself which speaks to you, and in turn your energy speaks to it. Our molecules we're constantly moving these molecules. Nothing is stationary, nothing is still. Even though I look solid, I'm actually not. This is something that our brains cannot quite comprehend, but which is true nevertheless. One would say it's very similar to faith. However, I derive no comfort in the idea of some being guiding me, perhaps directing me. Seems rather like a universal game of chess, and I'm the pawn, and I have no desire to be a pawn, thank you. And so this voice said, I am God, and I said, stop. And I explained why. And it stopped. And now, I will admit, I do find myself pondering what might have been if I had been willing to sit in the silence, because I have found that in experimentation, sometimes our brains get overwhelmed by the flux of information that is exploding through our neurons, and we become unable to actually see the answer, which is often quite simple. It is only when we can slow ourselves down and cause our energies to become still, or as still as I explained that they can be, considering that nothing is ever still. It is only at those moments that we truly see this answer which lies before us. And so I find myself questioning my decision of this afternoon in a very, very bizarre turn of events for me. You see, I find that typically I am a very self-assured human being. I know what my purpose is. I go after answers and I find them clearly. But I find that in a sudden twist, I am asking what might have been if I had been willing to sit in my silence and allow this voice its opportunity to speak. And if I could use this word, I have found that I am beginning to doubt my certainty. To doubt those beliefs which I have always held to be true. To doubt those guiding principles of my life that have led me to where I am in this current moment, and which will lead me forward. Well, which will perhaps lead me forward. This feeling of uncertainty is new and not pleasing. Perhaps the voice will come again, and as an experiment, I will let it speak.